Hello everyone and welcome to the real episode 1 of Rate That Country. So a lot of you in the last video requested that I do a country outside of Europe, and that's perfect for me since I actually very rarely play in Europe. I'd say the majority of my games have been outside of Europe. Well, definitely the majority of my games have been outside of Europe. I've only ever played like 3 games as a European. 4, I guess, if you count the Ottomans. Today we're going to be looking at the country of Songhai in West Africa, West Central Africa. Well, start off in West Africa, but you can go into Central Africa. So the game actually starts 1444. This is like right around the time that they kind of took up the torch from Mali. Up until now, the Mali kingdom had been the most powerful in this area, and Songhai took that from them in the 15th century and stayed for about 150 years as definitely the strongest kingdom in this area and one of the strongest kingdoms in Africa, basically in African history generally. So I think Songhai's start is actually a lot of fun. There are so many different diplomatic options given the variety of countries around you and their difference in strength, and they're also difference in religion. I mean, some people are fetishist, others are Islamic, and the clash between those two is always interesting. You have different directions to expand. Early game, you could go west. West is this way. You could go east. You could just try to get down to you could beeline it for the ocean, or you can go in one of these directions and try to get up to the north to the Mediterranean, or colonize up this way to get to the Eastern Mediterranean and Mamluks, and hopefully maybe one day the Ottomans. You start off decently weak, but no one in the area is that much stronger than you. I think Mali is a little better than you. Otherwise, Mosi is around your strength, but otherwise you're around. You're one of the great powers in this region, which means it's not terribly challenging, but you still have to do a lot of work to expand yourself and take care of the foes that you have. So I guess the thing that I like most about this is that you don't start in a particularly good position, but it's not really difficult to get yourself into a good position, and it's kind of fun to basically expand to the point where you get on the coast and you are then become a really good power. So in terms of their start, I'd give it an 8. It's not terribly challenging, but it is challenging, and there is like a lot of negotiation and strategy required to get yourself strong enough to be able to wipe out all the people surrounding you. So in terms of their ideas, Songhai actually has some pretty damn good ideas, from what I can tell. I'm not a master, but I really seems like, I mean, their traditions are infantry combat ability plus 10% and yearly army tradition plus 0.5, which is both pretty good. Infantry combat ability is good. Global trade power is, I mean, that's pretty good. You'll never turn that down. Fort defense is not bad. Morale of armies plus 10% is very good. Of course, it's no Elan, but you take what you can get. They have institution spread plus 10%, which is huge given that they are not terribly proximate to institution starts. I mean, they are proximate kind of geographically, but not, it's still like, given the deserts in between them and the people in the north, it takes a long time for them to get the institutions, so that Songhoy Madrasa is definitely very helpful. Really prestige, not bad. Tolerance of true faith, decent. Caravan power, it's nothing to write home about. And then their ambition is discipline plus 5%, which is, I mean, it could be higher, but that's still, you can't complain about that. Overall, they're definitely a very military focused country, which is decently historically accurate. In terms of their events, they don't have I wish I could like show these. I want to figure out a way to do that. But in this video, I will not be able to show them because that would require just recording huge amounts of the game until I can like actually get these decisions. There are a lot of decisions regarding Islam. Like I remember there are a number of decisions about Timbuktu as kind of a central city of Islamic learning. And that's really cool. I mean, I think Timbuktu, like the history of Timbuktu, is really interesting, and all these events and decisions around building it up are super cool. So they're not hugely unique, but they have some things they can do to kind of increase the historicity of the experience, and their ideas and events are generally pretty good. I mean, their ideas particularly seem pretty good. So I'd give them, I guess, a 6 out of 10 on the uniqueness scale. Now, in terms of overall playability, I'd say this is maybe the place where they fall short the most, because once you get beyond the start, that is very fun. I'd say like basically once you take over all of West Africa, which is not terribly difficult, then you arrive at this point where you're decently strong and you feel like you should be strong, but you're so far behind on institutions, and yet you're so close to people who are not, like the North Africans or people up here. If you go in that direction, the Ottomans will probably be there by the time you get there. And so it's kind of frustrating, and you don't really feel like there are many directions to go, because I mean, even taking over all of West Africa doesn't really give you enough strength to be able to fight the Ottomans, for example, in this direction, or even the Europeans, particularly because of how far behind you'll be in institutions. Of course, you always do have the option of colonizing and going, establishing yourself in the New World, and that's kind of fun. I mean, as you guys know, I don't like colonizing that much. It doesn't really add that much fun to the game for me. But if you like that definitely adds a degree of interest to it. But I mean, their biggest problem is that they're just kind of trapped here. Like once you take all of these people, then you're just surrounded by wasteland, and it takes a lot. You have to go really far in order to actually arrive again at places where there are other powers with whom you can interact. And for the most part, I don't think it's that much fun to just stay in one continent. I think that's kind of why I enjoy playing in the Middle East so much, because you could interact with 3 different continents. And so as Songhai, it's very difficult to break into a different continent. I mean, Asia, it just takes so long to get there. Europe is a little closer, but of course it's so difficult to fight Europeans until you really build up your strength that it's exceptionally difficult to break in, and it's pretty far away. I mean, there's a lot of wasteland here. So in terms of playability, I'd probably give them a 5. I still enjoyed playing as them, but it's not, once you kind of get into things, it's just I mean, as I've said, you just get kind of trapped. It's not the most open of games that you can play. And now lastly, the role-playing and formation, the quality of that. So you can't form anything as Songhai, as far as, I mean, you couldn't last time I did it. You can unify Islam, but that is not actually a formation, as I unfortunately figured out when I was playing as Arabia. It gets you some benefits. Like, I think it would be really cool if you unified Islam and you formed a country or a nation called Dar al-Islam, which is the name of the kind of world of Islam in Arabic. But you can't, and you can't form anything else. Now, that's not necessarily, I mean, that's annoying, but it's not necessarily the worst. I think Songhai is interesting historically because people have the sense that Africa has no history, and people completely ignore all of the actual powerful nations. Nations is an anachronistic word, but powerful countries and entities that existed in Africa before the Europeans showed up and demanded slaves. And so playing as someone like Songhai kind of allows you to experience that history, or for me, it just made me more interested in it. And so that may or may not be for you. So the game doesn't really make their role-playing or formation particular. I mean, there is no formation. It doesn't make their role-playing that much fun, but my own interests make it fun. So I'd probably rate it around a 6.5, because you're just Songhai for the rest of the game, and once you get out of here, then you're just a really big Songhai. I mean, there is nothing you can form, and it's disappointing. There's no kind of history really that you're reenacting beyond, like, I mean, Songhai owned most of this area, so that's kind of cool getting there, but beyond that, there's not much. Although I do think that their history is interesting, as I've said. So yeah, that has been my review of the country of Songhai. I would definitely recommend, if you're looking to play as someone in Africa, which people, from what I know, rarely do, I think Songhai is a really cool choice, particularly because, like, in history, this was right before they became big, and you get to take over the power vacuum that was left here when Mali fell apart a little bit. So yeah, let me know what you think. Let me know if you want another non-European country next time, or if you want a European country. I will just have to think about the different countries that I've liked playing the most. Thank you so much for watching and sticking with the series, and I will see you on the next episode.